Well, the book of Rich Dad Poor Dad is the most commonly sold book across the globe for 3 decades. The story of a boy having two fathers. One father is his own, known as the poor dad, and the other of his friends, Mike's father. He calls him Rich Dad, right? So in this video, the basic thing I'm going to share is the top 10 secrets. Well, everyone has read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's not an issue. But the issue is, what are the hidden thoughts, hidden secrets that is there that you'll be going or you'll be learning in this particular video. I will be sharing you 10 top 10 hidden secrets which are there in the book of Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay? Here we are in the lesson number 1 from the book of Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? In this book, author generally says, Robert Kiyosaki says, that I am a huge supporter of education and lifelong learnings. He is definitely a huge supporter of education and lifelong learnings. He never says not to educate. He always keeps every single person to educate. But the point is, what he doesn't want is, but going to school, especially college, has a financial nightmare. That is the first ever lesson of this book, because he believes that in this book he has given that a student going to school and college learns nothing. The person just tries to learn or learns how to memorize things, right? If you want to actually learn something, you have to educate far beyond any syllabus, right? You have to learn about money, not about job security. In school teaches you job security, not about money. That's the basic difference what he's trying to say in the lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 states that people's lives are forever controlled by two emotions, fear and greed. Well, that's what Robert T. Kiyosaki states, right? That any people you meet, their lives are always controlled by two things. One is called fear and the other is called greed, right? Those are the only two things. You might see any person who is saying that I don't work for money. That's why he's going for 8 hours job. That's why he's not working for money. That's the only reason he says that people life are always covered or controlled by two emotions, fear and greed. And control of emotions are the most important skill a person should have, right? That's lesson number 2. This is lesson number 3 from the book of Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Here Robert Kiyosaki says, I have to do constant work to control my emotions. I have seen this play out over and over again in my life. When emotion goes up, intelligence goes down. Well, that's what lesson number 3 is. Means if you do not control your emotion is always up. That's what for most of the people. And when your emotion is up, your intelligence is down. Your thinking capacity goes down. The moment your thinking capacity goes down, you take irrational decisions. The moment you take irrational decisions, you're gonna get doomed. That's the only reason majority of the people go down. They cannot go up, right? That's the only point. That's lesson number 3 from the book. Always take intelligent decisions when it comes to finances. Never let your emotion get control over you. Here we are in the lesson number 4. It states that rich people acquire assets and the poor people and the middle class acquire liabilities, which they think that are asset. Simple. The poor people, they buy a house, right? Which they think that is an asset. They buy car just in order to show themselves rich, which they think they are buying an asset. Well, that's the hell of a difference from the entire theory, right? Rule number 1 of Robert T. Kiyosaki states of his book Rich Dad Poor Dad that you must know the difference between asset and a liability, and you should buy assets. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. Liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Well, that's the simple definition. You should understand the definition of an asset and a liability, right? When many people say that we know the definition of an asset and liability in the definition of commerce, well, that's the wrong definition. If you understand by that definition, well, you'll not be understanding any definition of asset and liability. If you want to actually understand the definition of asset liability, there's no other best book than the Rich Dad Poor Dad where you can understand this, right? So rich acquire asset, but the poor acquires liability. So you have to define what are you acquiring, asset or a liability. Simple. Number 5 from the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Here Robert T. Kiyosaki elaborates a quote from Alvin Toffler. Here is this Alvin Toffler says that Rich Dad told him 2 decades ago that the illiterate of 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn and relearn. That's what Alvin Toffler says. Means of the 21st century, if you're just educated, if you call yourself educated by passing college, right, or some other university, then you are an illiterate. That's what Alvin Toffler says. Because the actual educated are those person who has the capability of learning a thing and then to unlearn it, right, and then to relearn a new thing, which is completely tough and hard. But if you can do that, that's the only way where you can succeed. That's what Alvin Toffler says, and that's the most important lesson of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. These are the most important secrets where every single person misses, majority misses. Well, that's my duty. It's just to share it, right? This is lesson number 6 from the book, where Robert says that one lesson my rich dad taught me is that choosing your teacher who have actually done what you want to do, right? Your mentors are very important and you have to choose them very, very wisely. That's what Robert T. Kiyosaki says. Whichever field you are, no matter whatever the field is, whether you're in the field of entrepreneurship or whether you're in the field of investing, you should know who your actual teacher is, right? You should be able to identify that you get a good mentor. Because if you don't get a good mentor, a good teacher, then you have very tough life forward, because wrong people will teach you wrong things. That's the simplest of all lessons of lesson number 6. Lesson number 7 from the book, where Robert T. Kiyosaki says, school has conditioned us to avoid mistakes, basically, and punishes the student for making them. But in the real world, I have learned that mistakes, if acknowledged and evaluated and used as a tool to make better decisions in the future, are invaluable. A fear can be a healthy thing, but we shouldn't be fear of making any mistakes. That's what the simplest of all lessons Robert T. Kiyosaki want to say. There might be fear of making any mistake, but that doesn't mean you will not make any mistake. If you don't make any mistake, that means you're not trying to do any new things, right? If you want to do new things, if you want to innovate yourself, you will make mistakes, and that's the part of the journey. Mistakes are good. Mistakes are very, very good. If we find the lessons of every failure, mistakes has to be there. But school doesn't teach us to do the mistakes, because school teaches us to skip the mistake. If you have done any mistake, you are doing wrong thing. Well, that's something where school is destroying you. That's the simple message of lesson number 7. To do a mistake, try, go through failure, struggle, and that's how you will succeed, right? We are at lesson number 8, where it says the most important criteria if you want to be successful and if you want to be financially independent is to pay yourself first. If you can't pay yourself first, well, you're not getting successful. I don't know what else you will be getting, but this is the simple rule how Robert T. Kiyosaki explains to be successful. What majority people does, this is the function of majority, right? Majority people does is they have income, they generate the expense, and the remaining they go for savings. Means 100 rupees they have income, they have 80 rupees expense, 20 rupees for savings. But what does Robert T. Kiyosaki suggests you to do? You have income, go for savings, and then go for income. Means if you have income of 100, go for savings 80 and go for expense 20. Well, you might say that this will not work because our income and the savings and the expense will not match. For that thing, you have to work a lot more and generate extra incomes, because this savings, what you have to do is invest. By investing this savings, you will build your asset in the asset column. So, by building an asset column, you will get rich, and that's the formula he says in lesson number 8. Hope I'm able to explain it. Lesson number 9 from the book, and here Robert T. Kiyosaki basically states that choose your friend circle wisely, because there are 2 categories of friend circle according to him. He says that one, those who have money and those who are seeking knowledge, and the other, those who struggle financially. Choose carefully which is your friend circle, right? Because if you choose the friend circle of having money and seeking knowledge, they will generally discuss, these people will generally discuss about when the next boom is coming, or the or they will generally discuss about the financial intelligence that your friend has. They will be sharing with you. They will discuss where the next part is, where should we invest in the next progress. You should be focused on that particular group circle of friends, not on the group circle of friends where they struggle financially and they're looking for two things: one is job and the other is loan. This is not the friend circle you should be with. This is the friend circle you should be with the growth mindset. Those who are ready to seek knowledge. And the person who is not ready to seek knowledge, you should not be there, because that's, as a saying goes this way, you're the average of 5 people you stay with. Now, who's your average that you're staying with matters a lot, right, in the long run. Here we are at the last lesson, that is lesson number 10. And what I'm going to learn out here is that what Robert T. Kiyosaki says basically to choose your hero. What does he says by that? By having heroes, we tap into the genius, and because they make it look easy, they inspire us to try. So whichever field you are, doesn't matter, but you have to choose your hero. You don't know your hero, that's very wrong. You should know your hero. If you're into field of investing, well, these are your heroes. Well, these are my heroes basically, and I would like to share them with you, because any field I move in, I just like to think like them, and they inspire me a lot, because investing is a very tough game and they made it easy, especially for me. And that's how this book has helped me. I hope it will help you too.